So we've seen people to be involved in conflict analysis in the morning session, and then conflict mapping. You see, conflict mapping consists of a set of questions, or let me say it's a framework that consists of a set of questions to help us source for information to help us make sense of the conflict. I want to reiterate, before we dabble into any conflict, we need to get as much information as necessary on that particular conflict. And we are looking for information in specific areas of the conflict. So, conflict analysis gives us tools, gives us frameworks. Some of these frameworks are graphical, some of them are narrative frameworks, but all of them work together to help us understand, gain an in-depth understanding from all sides of conflict, an in-depth understanding of that particular conflict. An in-depth understanding now assists us in planning our entry point, in knowing, in proposing solutions to these problems. So, conflict analysis is one of the basic skills we must have as conflict managers. So our presentation, our module is going to be divided into 3: introduction, the process of analyzing conflicts, and then I'll go ahead to present what I call meta tools of conflict analysis, meta tools, and then I'll present specific conflict analysis tools. Meta tools are what I refer to as parent tools, in the sense that they help us to identify the specific tools to be used. They're like a big container of information. We collect information on the different aspects of conflict, and then we are able to now identify, they help us to identify which tools will be used in this area or that area. So, what is the process of conflict analysis? The procedure for doing conflict analysis. Who does it? When do we do it? These are the things we want to check, go through under the conflict analysis process. So, as I entered in the morning, conflict analysis is best done as a team. I wish seeing my screen, please. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. Okay. So this is
yes, sir, we can, sir.
Okay, the process is best done as a team. As much as possible, we don't want to do conflict analysis alone. First, because it's a lot of work, and two, because we want multiple perspectives on it. It's a lot of work. We don't want to waste time on it. We want many people, as many as possible, hands to be on the deck. While somebody is collecting from this side, you are collecting from that side. While somebody is collecting quantitative, others are collecting qualitative. We need a qualitative aspect. While someone is interviewing this fellow or this group, another is interviewing another group. Why? Because conflict analysis is time-bound too. It's time-bound. While it is important to analyze the conflict, we don't want to waste too much time. We don't want to waste time at all. We don't want to waste time at all in collecting this conflict. So we want as many hands as possible to be on the deck. So, as I said also, there are expert conflict analysts, such that if you cannot do it on your own, or your organization cannot do it, you can outsource it to experts. It's just like giving a research contract to some people. But conflict analysis is a special type of research. Conflict analysis is a special type of research. It's a research that is done with conflict and peace sensitivity or sensitivity to conflict and peace at the back of the researcher's mind. So it's not any group of researchers that can do it. Researchers, people that can help you collect information for conflict analysis, are people trained in conflict analysis because they will know who to go to, and they will collect and collate this information using specific conflict analysis frameworks, which is part of what we want to discuss this afternoon. And we can do conflict analysis at the micro level, at the meso level, and at the macro level. In other words, we can do conflict analysis in interpersonal disputes. We can do it in communal disputes. We can do it at national or international conflicts. And now, we have several tools to do that. What will determine the tool or the tools we will use on a particular conflict include the level of the analysis we want to do and the purpose of the analysis. And also, I should say this at the outset that certain tools are custom built, as it were, or certain tools are best suited for certain aspects of the conflict. There are tools that we use to analyze actors. There are tools that we use to analyze issues in conflict. There are tools that we use to analyze the profile and the dynamics of the conflict. So more often than not, we will use multiple tools in a particular to understand a particular conflict situation. So that is how we go about conflict analysis. It should be extensive and should combine different methods of data collection. We should do actor interview, desk research, whereby, actor interview where we go to interview the actors from both sides, including the primary actor, secondary, tertiary, and so on, and shadow actors. We do desk research, whereby we want to see information that are available online, from newspapers, from blogs, and so on and so forth, including videos, text materials for us to understand the conflict. Also, we do expert interviews, whereby we talk to people who are experts on issues in the conflict, or people who are experts in the conflict. We conduct surveys using questionnaire. That is, surveys are used to collect information from a big population. Sometimes we want to capture the view of as many people as possible through surveys. Also, we do community consultations, where we go meet community in market spaces, in marketplace meeting, town hall meeting. Sometimes we meet specific groups in community, traditional rulers, youth group, depending on issues that came up during mapping. Don't forget, before analysis, we need to map. Like I said in the morning, mapping, conflict mapping helps to make sense of the conflict. It's like parboiling rice before the proper cooking. So we also hold workshops with staff and so on and so forth. Other relevant actors are also taken into consideration. So you see that, as I said before, the large chunk of conflict analysis is information collection, data collection. However, this data collection uses specific frameworks. Excuse me, uses specific frameworks. Okay, data collection should also be participatory. In other words, we need to involve the actors. Those people who are involved in the conflict must necessarily be part of the people we are collecting information from, and also other stakeholders, governments, NGOs, and so on and so forth. And data we collect should be triangulated. What do you mean by triangulation of data? Data collection? We mean that we should use different methods of data collection. And also, we should use different sources of data. What does that help us to achieve? It helps us to achieve approximation of reality. It helps us to, this way, ensure that our data collection are as accurate as possible. If you look at it from different angles, for instance, we collect quantitative data and also qualitative data, and there's agreement between the two of them. Or when we do that, the chances of error is minimized. The same way, we use different methods to collect the same data. It minimizes our propensity for error. It's like if you ask many people that witness an event, if you ask many of them about the event, you need to capture as many sides of the event as possible. That is what we're talking about in triangulation, looking at things from at least two sides, but preferably three, to form a triangle. So, but in the minimum, two sources, two methods. Okay. And you see, why triangulation of data is important here is because whatever conclusion or inference we draw from the data collected, they have grievous implications. So we don't want to do it like most of us, or just like most of us did our first degree project. I mean, hooking up data just to get rid of the project. We don't want to do that here because the issues of conflict sometimes might be matters of life and death. We have grievous implications. So you want to be as accurate as possible in the data collected because these are going to inform your intervention. These are going to inform your management of the conflict. So these are the people we include in data collection and conflict analysis. Conflict managers, you, your partners, your staff. If you have staff, if you don't have staff at this level, do you have people who are other conflict managers that can partner with you, that you can take along? Oh, I'm working on this project. I'm working on this conflict. Can you come along with me, or can you do this aspect of conflict analysis for me? Also, our partners are other actors, subject matter experts. And then you have people in that area, organizations that are working in that area, and members of the local communities. Also, at the macro level, we just completed the micro level. Now, who do we involve at the macro level? Who do we involve at the macro, that is higher level? Depending on the nature of the conflict, we involve the donors, we involve senior management staff, embassies, multilateral agencies who have presence in that country. We involve academics. Why academics? Because many times they possess subject matter expertise. Some of them are researching or have researched or made comments. They have knowledge about the conflict you are working on or the area of the conflict. Also governments and businesses. So when do we conduct conflict analysis? When are we supposed to conduct conflict analysis? As early as possible. As early as possible. Just like a medical doctor will not will not treat a patient until tests are conducted, until it has made sense of what is happening. And we do that immediately the patient comes in contact with him. So also, conflict managers, immediately conflict is brought to our attention or we are called to intervene in the conflict, we need to diagnose the conflict. In the minimum, starting with conflict mapping. Now from the level of mapping, we move to the level of analysis, conflict analysis. And our analysis should be revisited throughout the life cycle of our involvement in the conflict. Why? Because conflict, like most things in life, they change. But conflicts usually are so dynamic. So we want to monitor the progress of the conflict and feed new information we get into our conflict analysis. Sometimes we have constraints to do conflict at the stage, for instance, assessment. For instance, if you are a part of a team that wants to implement, let's say, a physical project or a human development project in a conflict environment, before you start that project, you want to do conflict analysis at the project conceptualization stage. However, sometimes there may be constraints, but as soon as possible, you need to, and as much as possible, you need to try to overcome whatever constraint we have, and then do our conflict analysis. Now, in analyzing conflicts, you need to know that every conflict has its boundaries. Every conflict is a system that has its boundaries. Sometimes, a particular conflict is a subsystem of a larger conflict. For instance, there might be conflict between a husband and wife. Let's imagine a Yoruba husband, Igbo wife, or an Igbo husband, Yoruba wife, during the just concluded election. It is not out of place to think that what is happening outside the home may be filtering into the home. So there is dispute between the husband and the wife. This small family domestic dispute may be an extension or may be subsumed under what was going on during the electionary period. So when we want to analyze, we cannot analyze all the boundaries. We cannot analyze all the subsystem or all the super system within which there is a subsystem. So we need to determine to what extent, what will be the boundary of our analysis. Who are the actors? Do we need to bring in analysis of let's say the presidential candidates, the analysis of their personality or their interest in that family dispute? That may not be necessary. It may suffice to note that, okay, what is going on, their comments, what is being said about them is affecting the family, but not necessarily that all these political figures are particularly or directly or even indirectly influencing what is going on within the husband and wife. But the important thing is that we need to know which system are we focusing on. And whatever system you're focusing on and the ones we are excluding, we need to know why and why not. Because different boundaries represent different perspectives of the conflict. So, conflict analysis, the process of conflict analysis helps managers, conflict managers, to question the assumptions of the conflict. Some information that they have gathered during the conflict mapping stage, they will need to question them. Analysis, deeper insight they are gaining now may make them to change or alter some of the things they held, some of the perspectives they held before this analysis. They should also be conscious, conflict managers also should be conscious that they are also part of the context now, in a sense. Okay, before I proceed, I suspect that maybe some of us may have some clarifications or some questions. If you have, just type it in the chat or raise your hand. Questions on the introductory part of conflict analysis. If you have anything that you found confusing, which may not help you understand what we are doing now, just raise up your hands. I will address those things. I will address those things. But having gone through conflict mapping, really, having gone through conflict mapping, that has laid a good foundation for us here. And always put it at the back of your mind, that analogy between that comparison analogy of using medical doctor and their tests. Have that picture at the back of your mind. You are a medical doctor. In fact, John Galton called peace workers, conflict managers, as we were told in the morning, he called them social physicians, that is, social medical doctors. While medical doctors do DPT, diagnosis, prognosis, and therapy, we also do, for individuals, for their patients, we do that for people in conflict. We do that for organizations in conflict. We do that wherever we find incompatibility, wherever we are called to come into incompatibility and help them ameliorate the sufferings that people may be experiencing or improve that situation. So we want to restore peace. We want to restore harmony, just like medical doctor want to restore health. And therefore, it is important for us to know what kind of peace I want to restore, and it's important for us to know what is wrong with the system, for you to know the most appropriate type of peace that we need to work towards, that we need to restore. I hope you are following me. Hello? Can we hear me, please?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. Okay. Let's now look at what I call conflict analysis method tools. Conflict analysis method tools. When we use the word meta, it means like higher order. Okay, so there are higher order tools that help us to identify other smaller tools, relevant, other relevant smaller tools to help us understand something. So meta tools identify major themes in the conflict, and then the specific tools to use to do the in-depth analysis. So in a sense, they're like bigger container that have sections or that has compartments where we will keep the tools to use in that or in those compartments. This is what I mean. Look at conflict wheel. Conflict wheel. Conflict wheel is both graphical and narrative, but is essentially graphical in the sense that it breaks down conflict into 6 parts, 6 sectors. The first sector, actors and their relationships. Actors and their relationships. The second sector, issues. Issues. The third sector, dynamics, while the fourth and fifth are context or structures, causation, then the final sector is options or strategies. Then that is, what do we do? Don't forget that conflict analysis is not an end in itself, it's a means to an end. The end is to help us plan the best therapy, the best intervention for the problem of the conflict at hand. So with conflict wheel, you are able to put in each sector under actors and relations, you feel like, okay, what tools will I use? Oh, I will use conflict map. I will use this, I will use that, and so on and so forth. So you put conflict map in that sector, and then you now use the map to analyze the actors and their relationships. So, as I said, it gives an overview of a conflict before analyzing specific aspects of it. The wheel symbolizes wholeness and movement. Once the various aspects have been examined, they need to be brought together to get the conflict analysis rolling. So the aim is to organize the conflict and other conflict analysis tools and to serve as an overview when first approaching a conflict. So after you have mapped the conflict, the next stage you want to go into is to use the meta-analysis. What tool? Based on my understanding of this conflict now, what tool or which tool am I going to use to analyze the actors? Which one am I going to use to analyze the issues, and so on and so forth? So look at a conflict analysis, a conflict wheel that have been filled here. In this wheel, we have, okay, sorry, let me clear something that I'm seeing here. I want to erase this annotation. We are seeing under the actors, we have needs, fears mapping, conflict mapping, CPA, meaning that I am going to use these 3 tools to analyze actors and their relations there. Then moving to issues, I'm going to use CPA and needs, fears mapping. And then under the dynamics, I'm going to use conflict tree, Gnosis escalation model, multi-causal role model. These 3 tools. Then, analyzing context and structure, I will use conflict tree. Under causation, I will use multi-causal role model tool, conflict analysis tool. And then finally, for options and strategies, I will use CPA, needs fear mapping, Gnosis escalation model. All these things are used for this particular conflict. So this is the way we use the conflict wheel, which is a meta tool. It is a meta tool. And I told it's both graphical and narrative. So, who are the people that we refer to as actors and relations here? They are parties. That is, people, organizations, or countries that are involved in the conflict. In the Ukrainian-Russian conflict, Russia and Ukraine are primary actors. Then we have NASA, we have some other countries as secondary actors and stakeholders. So actors directly involved with the conflict are called conflict parties. Russia, Ukraine, if the people, Modakite people. Actors involved in transforming or managing the conflict are called third parties. Conflict managers, therefore, are third parties. Mediators, third parties, and so on. Stakeholders are another set of actors. They are those who have an interest in the conflict or the outcome of the conflict. They are not directly involved in the conflict, but the continuation of the conflict is affecting them, and whatever is the outcome of the conflict will also affect them because of their interest. We also have a group of people we call shadow parties. Shadow parties. Shadow parties are a special type of stakeholders, but because their stakes are illegitimate, they have unholy stakes in the conflict, they would rather stay in the shadow because they cannot come out boldly in the light and say, I have stakes in this thing. For instance, in a family dispute, a side chief or a side cock, they constitute shadow parties because they cannot come out to say, oh, I have particular stake in this thing. If we settle this conflict, the money that the man is giving to me, or the time the woman is giving to me, the attention, I will not enjoy it again. They cannot come out. So we call them shadow parties. But they have influence on the conflict through the parties, through the conflict parties, because they have some kind of relationship with the conflict parties. Now, issues and dynamics. What does this refer to? Issues and dynamics are the subjects, the reasons, those things, the topics of the conflict. These are things people fight about or discuss about. And the dynamics talked about the way the conflict is changing in its intensity of interaction, people's temperament, changes in energy, changes in the means, the instrument that people use in the conflict. This is what we call dynamics of the conflict. Context and structures of conflict are the environment within which the conflict is happening. Political, economic, social, cultural, legal, and other issues that surround the conflict, within which nest the conflict is happening. Within this context, we have structural factors, that is, things in the context that support the context. Structural factors, and also we have both context and structural factors that are often outside the conflict system one is looking at. In other words, the context and structures may go beyond the immediate boundaries of that particular conflict. Causation. Hello? Please, let's all be muted. Causation refers to causes of conflicts, which will include structural or systemic things, proximate, triggers, and influence factors. All these causes, they interact. Therefore, it's important to differentiate between structural causes, proximate causes, and triggers, because all of them, there is an interplay among them. Structural causes are the support system. Proximate are those things that make violence likely, that increase the likelihood of violence. And triggers refer to those single events that happened or that is threatening to happen that now leads to violence. For instance, structural, using the illustration of a gun, let's say AK-47, the machine, the metal, and the engineering of the gun, the structure of the gun is not enough to kill people. Gun is just any metal shaped in some funny ways. If somebody picks it up who doesn't know the potential of the gun, it can be using it to beat someone or to hit the ground. However, once the gun, okay, what I'm referring to is a gun whose safety catch is still in place. The safety catch is still in place, so it's as good as any funny looking object. But once we remove the safety catch, it becomes a more likely instrument to kill. But even with the safety catch removed, until you pull the trigger, that is when its full potential is unleashed. Sometimes corruption, bad governance, this and that, they are not enough reasons for people to start violence. Yes, there are structures, there are structural factors. There are structural factors, inequalities, structural factors, and so on and so forth. However, things like cancelled election or electioneering period charges the environment and make the likelihood of violence heightened. Now, within the charged environment of election period, let's say two political parties, major political parties, they now hold their rally on the same day within close proximity, maybe within the same town. It has happened in Ado-Ekiti before. PDP, they've had their rally before, but when APC wanted to come and have their rally, to be led by the former president, the immediate past president, PDP decided to hold their rally that same day. You know, that atmosphere will be a very charged atmosphere. But thank God nothing happened. Let's now suppose that, let's assume that while the two parties were moving on the streets, they came in contact with themselves, and a member or some members of one party throw stone or beat the other members or members of other party. Definitely there will be fracas. That singular event of beating, of throwing something, that is what we call trigger. So causes of conflict will be structural, proximate, or triggers. Conflict managers must be able to separate these three and see how the three of them combine or influence one another. Options and strategies. How do we deal with this conflict? What are the strategies that we can use as third party to de-escalate the conflict, to manage the conflict very well? Okay, so that is the conflict wheel. Another tool that I refer to as meta tool is the PCAD. I so named it PCAD because this tool helps us to collect information on the profile, causes, actors, and dynamics. These four elements are constants, major constant elements in conflict. Major constant elements in conflict. Profile. From now on, we'll be using real life, or let me say we'll be using a case study of conflict. We can either pick the Niger Delta conflict, Sunday Igboho conflict, Northeast conflict, or any conflict within Nigeria that we'll be using as reference. So I need us to talk to me, which conflicts do you think we should use as reference out of all the conflicts in Nigeria? Let me see. Do we do a poll? I want to did you get my question? I want us to pick a particular conflict that we use. Okay. So, how many of us will want us to use Niger Delta conflict? Please, by show of hands, you want us to use Niger Delta conflict for our case study. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands. You want us to use Northeast conflicts, the Boko Haram in the Northeast. Okay, I'm seeing one hand for Boko Haram. Okay, you want us to use Sunday Igboho conflict, Yoruba Nation conflict. Let me see your hand up. Okay, nobody. You want us to use, excuse me, let's say the election conflict, APC, PDP, Labour Party conflict. Okay, 2. Okay. Oh, great. So we have 2 for this. So the election conflict. Or does anybody have any other conflict in mind? Or we should just go straight and pick the winner, which is the election conflict. At least 2 people voted for that. Okay, so we'll be using the election conflict as a reference point from this time. We all know the conflict is between 3 political parties, 3 major political parties, APC, PDP, and Labour Party. So, profile. Let's look at profile. Under this PCAD sphere, which I also called a meta tool because it helps us to gather general information. And then we can now use specific conflict analysis tools to do detailed analysis. So this PCAD synthesizes the key elements of conflict. And what are these key elements? Profile, causes, actors, and dynamics. And with these key elements, you're able to develop a comprehensive picture of the context of the conflict. It asks critical questions and tries to collect information about each of these elements. So how does it do it? First, it wants to gather information about conflict profile. So the question is, what is the political, economic, and socio-cultural context? We have decided to use the political conflicts, APC, PDP, and Labour Party. I want us to focus on the presidential one. Now, what is the nature of the incompatibility in these conflicts? Mr. Biodun, we said that when a conflict manager wants to engage a conflict, one of the areas you first need to look at is the nature of the incompatibility, whether it is real or imagined. Is it real incompatibility or imagined incompatibility? So now, Mr. Biodun, the conflict between APC, PDP, and Labour, what is the nature of their incompatibility, please? What is the nature of the incompatibility of the conflict? Okay, not to waste time. Chukwudi Christian, can you tell us the nature of the incompatibility? Okay, can we hear me, please?
Yes, good afternoon.
Oh, great. Good afternoon, Mr. Biodun.
Yes, even though they are, from my own view, I think it has to do with their own interest, party interest. And that is where their conflict, actually lies. Because the interest of APC is quite different from the interest of PDP and also Labour. Even though the three parties actually project to actually lead Nigeria aright. But the internal party interest, I think that indeed really causes, the conflict. In my own wisdom.
Okay, thank you very much. We are not even getting to the deep level or deeper level you are taking us to yet. What I'm saying is that, what are they fighting over? What are they fighting over? Of course, all of them want to produce the president. That is the incompatibility. That is the goal that the three parties have, to produce the president. Now, is this incompatibility real or only dwells in their imagination? Mr. Emmanuel, this incompatibility, is it real or does it only dwell in their imagination? Faith, is this incompatibility real or does it dwell in the imagination? You recall the illustration I gave about the 4 siblings fighting over an orange, while the 4 of them had imagined incompatibility. Hello? Anybody want to make comment on that? Madam Jeje Toyin. Madam Nora. Hello. Please, can you hear me, people?
Yes, from my side, yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, great. It's like, does it mean?
I'm just joining. I've been in a place where there was no network, so I just joined back now.
Oh, okay. Okay. Madam Nahemi. Okay, I can see somebody's hand. Okay, Vaku, thank you.
Okay. So the incompatibility between PDP and APC, like it's very real, it's not imagined.
Please, can you speak louder?
Can you hear me? I said the incompatibility between PDP and APC is very real, it's not imagined.
Thank you very much. They had real incompatibility because the three parties cannot produce a president at the same time. Only one party will produce. So, what type of conflict style is best for such? Is it collaboration? Is it avoidance? Is it accommodating? The best style for any party, any of the three parties is what? Vacuum. Which style would you consider the most appropriate conflict management strategy for the parties in that situation?
I think collaboration.
Collaboration, meaning that the three of them will come together and say, okay, if you go this year, I will
It could also be competitive.
Yes, competition. You have to compete because there are certain things you can't collaborate on. Man United and Arsenal, if they reach final of their championships, the two teams cannot sit down and collaborate and say, okay, let the two of us, let us share this championship. You will be champion 1A, I will be champion 1B. There are things we must compete for. So I just said those things to see how we relate some of the things I've been learning to real life situations. So now we want to proceed with using PCAG to look at the conflict between APC, PDP, and Labour Party. That definitely is an intergroup conflict. It's not interpersonal. The conflict is not between Asiwaju, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and Peter Obi and Atiku. Although in the court, they will present their names, but the conflict is actually between their parties. So what is the political, economic, and socio-cultural context within which this conflict is taking place? That is talking about the political things happening in Nigeria. That is Nigeria. So in the analysis, we describe political culture of Nigeria. For the past 8 years, APC has been there. They just can't produce another president. There was a time PDP was there for 16 years, and this is the general nature of politics in Nigeria. That is the kind of information we need there. Economy. We talk about the economy of Nigeria. Oh, Nigeria is the richest country in the world. The GDP of Nigeria is this. All these things is what we're talking about, because this kind of analysis we are doing is a macro level analysis. Macro level, because it's at the national level. It's not a conflict between individuals. And also, we look at the socio-cultural context. We need information of the socio-cultural context. All this information will constitute the conflict profile, the conflict environment. For instance, specific questions we ask also include, are there emergent political, economic, or ecological and social issues? Are there things that people that are emerging, that are just developing? Are there reform processes? Are there things that the government is doing? For instance, during a few months to the election, we had the issue of naira change. I mean, currency not change, naira scarcity. All these were issues during, before we had the elections. The fact that some people, many of us were finding it difficult to get money, and the implication that had on our private lives. These are social issues. The fact that a particular candidate felt the naira change was targeted at him, and also fuel scarcity. All these are things that make up the profile of the conflict we are trying to analyze. The third question are, what specific conflict-prone or affected areas is situated within this context? Here we are talking about specific things. For example, do we have area of influence of these major actors? We know that Southwest, Bola Ahmed Tinubu are serious, is his power base, especially Lagos State. So front lines around the location of natural resources, important infrastructure, all these things we take into consideration in determining the conflict profile. And also, what is the history of conflict? Is there a history to this conflict? Here, we want to note that in the past, all presidential elections in Nigeria had been contested, and every time nobody wins. Nobody wins the incumbent, and so on and so forth. So, are there critical events, mediation efforts, external interventions such as international community trying to monitor or observe our elections? So, those 4 questions are the means through which we gather necessary and required information on the profile, that is the environment of the conflict. Now we move to the second element, which is the causes of this conflict. And you recall that we said that causes of conflict could be structural, proximate, or triggers. So we ask questions like, what are the structural causes of this conflict? Why are they contesting this thing, this way? Do we have lack of political participation? Maybe inequitable access to resources, poor governance or bad governance, corruption, and so on and so forth. There are places where election results are not contested. There are places where elections are not as bitterly contested as this place, as in Nigeria. What are the structural causes of these? Maybe because there are weak laws. Maybe the fact that whoever becomes the president is like a demigod. He has almost having superpowers to do and undo. Maybe these are some of the reasons. So get information on structural causes of conflict. Okay. What issues can be considered as proximate causes of the conflict? Anybody? Can anybody talk about things that would constitute proximate causes of the electoral conflict? Hello? Thank you, Vaku. Please go ahead.
Number one is the disputed election results.
Okay, you said?
I said disputed election results and also violence,
Thank you very much.
intimidation,
Yes. Yes.
coercion.
You are correct. Because we have a history of how elections have been conducted. So people really don't have much faith. They don't have the strongest faith in it. So it's similar to the issue of let's scatter ground in the Niger Delta. That once somebody is bringing in development projects, some people will go and do shakara, they will scatter ground. Because they say if you don't scatter ground, nobody will see us and they won't share this thing to us. So that belief contributes to violent conflict in the Niger Delta. In this case, the belief that let me first of all win. Once I win, we can now discuss the rest later. Makes our election to be conflictual and sometimes to be violent. Okay. Now, the triggers, that is, what led to the outbreak? What led to outbreak of conflict? And in this area, I want us to look at specific cases or specific places where there were violence during the election, where people were beaten, where ballot boxes were snatched, or where some people were arrested. Does anybody have any thoughts to offer here? Sorry, it's raining where I am, so if you want to speak, please, you have to speak out very loudly. Sometimes, in cases where we have outbreak of violence during the election, maybe we have a member of that community who decide to vote for another candidate, a candidate that the whole community didn't want to vote for. We have video clips of people who voted for a party and they were beaten. We have video clips of people who are prevented from going to exercise their right to vote, and so on and so forth. So we now go to another element, which is the actors. The actors. Who are the actors in the APC, PDP, and Labour Party conflict, which is an ongoing conflict? It started before the election, existed during the election, and this post-election is still continuing. Who are the main actors? I expect many hands to be up now. Who are the main actors? Madam Jeje Toyin. Okay, I've seen Ominiri, Ominini. Yes, good. So Ominini. Oh, great. So you have the floor, Ominini. Just mention one actor.
Okay. For Labour Party, it is Peter Obi.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Peter Obi.
Yes. So it's
is a main actor.
Yes.
Labour Party
Yes.
is the main actor. Thank you. Okay, the second hand I'm seeing Princess. After Princess, Baku, after Baku, Madam Nora. Okay, Princess. Yes, Princess, you have the floor. Please speak out.
PDP is Abubakar Atiku.
Yes. Abubakar.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
I said it is Atiku for PDP.
Yes, Atiku and PDP. Okay, thank you very much. Vaku.
Okay, so for APC, Bola Tinubu and yes,
Bola Tinubu for APC. Yes.
Yeah.
Madam Nora, thank you.
Yes.
Then we have the electorate.
Yes, but are the electorate's main actors?
Hello?
They are not yet main actors.
Okay.
Yes, there are other main actors there. You know, we have mentioned 6: Bola Ahmed Tinubu, APC, Atiku Abubakar, and PDP. 4: Peter Obi, Labour Party. Who else? What about their vice presidential candidates? They are also part of them.
Yemi Osibanjo.
Okay, Baku, your hand is still up.
I said Yemi Osibanjo.
Yemi Osibanjo.
Yeah.
Okay, as the president, as the vice president of the ruling party. Yes. You see, by the time we continue to look at this, the former president will also be part, because he has vested interest that his party must continue. The party chairman, all these will eventually constitute our main actors. INEC, main actor, and so on and so forth. Okay, let's move to other actors in that conflict. Okay, before then, what are their main interests? What are the goals, position, capacity, and relationships? You see, for each actor we identify, we want to see what is the interest of this actor. So let me ask this question. What is the main interest of INEC? What is the main interest of INEC? What is the, yes, Ominini?
I think that the main interest of INEC is to ensure the election is free and fair from any electoral malpractice or any violence or anything like that.
Thank you very much. The main interest of INEC is to conduct a free and fair election and ensure that the best candidate, the most voted candidate wins. What is the main interest of Bola Ahmed Tinubu? What is the main interest of Atiku? What is the main interest of Peter Obi? Thank you, Mr. Biodun.
Yes, I think their main interest is to win the election.
Yes, each of these people want to win the presidency. They want to become the president, the next president. For whatever reason, whether legitimate or illegitimate, everyone wants to win. Every one of these three people want to win the election. Their goal is to win. The interest. Why do they want to win? I want to be the next president. Oh, I've been planning to be president for long. Oh, I want to be the youngest president Nigeria has produced. You see, this constitutes their interest, their goal, their position refers to what they say they want. And that is, I will be the next president. Why? That's their interest, their goals. Oh, why may be that I just want to be the youngest. Oh, I have ideas that I want to implement. Oh, I believe I can do it. Oh, I believe it's my turn. Oh, I believe I've sacrificed for others. Now it's my turn. If I don't win it, it means I've been cheated. Whatever. Now, what is the relationship between these actors? We will take the relationship between, when we get to mapping, we see how we do it in a pictorial form. But for now, we want to take the relationship between all the actors who are friends, who are enemies. Mr. Biodun, you want to make a comment? I see your hand up.
Oh, no. It's the previous one I made, sir.
Oh, okay. You forgot to pull it down. Okay. So, these are the questions we ask to gather useful information on actors. Now, still on actors, what institutional capacities for peace can be identified? You see, we cannot overemphasize this. No matter how conflictual or conflict reading a situation is, if you look well, if you look carefully at the context, you will still be able to identify what we refer to as local capacities for peace. These are institutions or individuals who can still be used, who still stand for peace, who can still be used in our conflict management, efforts. For instance, the two parties or the two leaders, the main actors, may be members of the same ethnic group. Look at the case of the vice presidential candidate for PDP. He's a South man. Though Obi is from Southeast, maybe the two of them are Catholics. I don't know. Let's say violent conflict broke out and the two of them now have armies. But the two of them respect Pope, or they respect a bishop, a cardinal. They are Catholic. I know Obi is Catholic, I think. Maybe Okowa also is Catholic. The fact that they have the same religion, and they respect a particular religious leader, the Pope or the bishop, that relationship with the bishop is a local capacity for peace. It's something we can use to bring about peace between these two people. And we can begin to use the Okowa to talk to Atiku. So what we are saying is that as a conflict manager, whatever conflict you are looking at, you should be sensitive to what we refer to as local capacities for peace. These things could be a social event or a cultural event that combine these antagonists, these conflict actors. Maybe they use the same praying ground. They are both Muslims. And this is a fasting period. This is Ramadan period. The two of them will fast and go to the same praying ground. We can use their imam. The fact that prayer, Ramadan is going on, we can use it. So as conflict managers, we are not only conscious of things that are dividing people, we are also conscious of things that bring people together. These things could be religious things, cultural things, traditional things, social things, political things. Also, institutional things like judiciary, regional and multilateral bodies can be used. So what actors can be identified as potential spoilers? As we have actors who can be potential supporters of peace, we have actors who are spoilers. People who would rather that the conflicts continue, that the violence continue. Why? Because they are benefiting from it. They are benefiting from it. Okay, let's go back to the last this slide. Now, in the conflict we are examining, do we have institutional capacities for peace? In the election conflicts in Nigeria, do we have institutional capacities for peace? Are there institutional capacities for peace in the APC, PDP, Labour Party conflicts? I expect hands up. Fashiku. Fashiku, do we have?
Yes. Okay. Yes, we do.
Okay, can you name one or two?
Okay. The institutional capacity for peace in APC, I think you said.
Yeah, in APC, PDP, Labour Party conflict.
Okay.
That's the case study we are using.
Okay, I think institutional capacity for peace actually is the structure of the parties itself, the executives of the parties, because they are the ones organizing activities of the parties. So they are responsible for making sure that peace, there is peace within among members in the party. So I think they themselves are the institutional capacity for peace in the conflict. That's what I think.
You are correct if we are limiting the conflicts to internal party conflicts. But now we are talking about inter-party conflicts. Okay. Inter-party, the conflict between APC. Do you agree that there is conflict? We are limiting it to presidential election. There is conflict between APC, PDP, and Labour Party.
Yes, I do, sir.
Do you agree, Fashiku?
I do, sir. Yes, I do, sir.
Okay. And their conflict is about the incompatibility. Their incompatibility is about who becomes the president.
Yes.
Yes. So there's incompatibility.
Yes.
And there's only competition they can use to resolve it.
Yes.
Am I correct? That's why they contested.
Yes.
People have collaborated and say, okay, let me withdraw for you, so that when you become president, I will now become president too. That
Yes.
not happen, isn't it? So they have
Yes.
to. Okay. So now, what institutional capacity for peace exists in Nigeria?
Okay. We have the court system, the judiciary, for
Thank
instance.
you very much. Okay, I can see the hand of Adeda on me. Thank you for that. The judiciary. Okay, you have the floor. Mr.
Yes, sir.
Oluwani.
I think, okay, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
I think the multilateral bodies too, they have a role to play in engendering peace. Like
Thank
the
you.
Matthew Kuka Foundation, there's a body that is like that combines Christian and Muslim. I've forgotten interreligious group. There's this interreligious group that it also comes in, and there was a time, I think it was in 2018, there was this group that was headed by the former president Abdusalam. And I remember there was one of the meetings held in Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution.
Yes.
Those multilateral bodies do have a role, and the civil society too. They have roles to play, because there are times they give this subtle pressure. They just do it like silently, and everybody tends to now sit up.
Thank you very much. So, Ms. Adeda Oluwani, please.
Yes, sir.
Oh, madam. Please go ahead. Are you the one that just spoke?
Yes, I'm the one that just spoke.
Oh, thank you. Okay, we go to Vaku.
Yes, sir.
Vaku.
Okay. Yes, sir. So we have peace building and conflict resolution agencies, like the Institute for Peace and Conflict Resolution, for like promoting peace. Then there's also like traditional conflict resolution systems, like all these community leaders, elders, traditional councils, and the rest. Then security agencies too, like we all know, police, military, paramilitary forces, and the rest. Yeah.
Thank you very much. But one of the most important institutional capacity for peace here is it rests in the judiciary, as particularly the Presidential Election Petition Tribunal, because the parties know that they can take their cases to such places. Now, let's say you are the conflict manager in charge of this conflict. You will identify first, and we also identify some of the institutions and individuals we have mentioned. These are people that we know that we can mobilize or ride on their influence to ensure that we manage this conflict without it turning to violence. Now, out of these three parties and their candidates, do you think any of these three parties and their candidates do not have enough resources to buy ammunition to start civil war in Nigeria? For instance, if Peter Obi says this Biafra boys, what's the name of these Biafra soldiers? I'm not talking about ESPN. Because we can mobilize Biafra soldiers. Atiku can buy enough ammunition to destabilize Nigeria, and also Bola Ahmed Tinubu. But why didn't the three of them recourse to that? One of the reasons is that they know that I can take my grievances to the judiciary. Oh, there is law in the land. We have international organizations. Our country belongs to some multilateral organizations that will intervene. These are institutional capacities for peace. And also, just like we have that, we have people we call spoilers, people who will benefit if Nigeria go into civil war. We need to identify those people too as actors. All the people that have been clamoring for, oh, let's break up. If the three parties go into war, will they not be satisfying their interests? They will be satisfying the interest of these people who have been clamoring for Nigeria must break, Nigeria must break, must go our ways. Some of these people are extremists. People who they don't want anything peace. They benefit from the war economy, and their leaders feel undermined. They will feel undermined when you are doing your conflict management. So, since most of us are going to start our conflict management services at the level, at micro level, it's important that we identify likely spoilers. You are called to manage a conflict in a religious body, or let's say between a husband and a wife. You must be conscious that there are individuals who will like to work at cross purposes to what you are doing. You are conflict managers. We have conflict entrepreneurs. You want to manage the conflict. They want to profit from the conflict, you see? So every action, physics says, to every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. There are people who will be working against what you are trying to do, or who might be working. You have to be conscious of that. And once you identify such people, Yoruba people call them Arije Nidi Modaru, Arije Nidi Modaru, someone that finds their means of livelihood or that benefits from confusion, that benefits from violence, from bad things. Once you identify them, what you want to do is you want to determine their capacity. To what extent can they halt this process? Do they have the power? If you find out that they have the capacity to stop what you are doing, what we do is, once you have determined that capacity, you look for something or someone to either contain them or neutralize them. Let me give you an example. You find out that a figure in the family of the wife, maybe the richest man, he has so much authority that whatever he says is the final. The husband and the wife, they want to reconcile. The parents-in-laws, they want them reconciled. But there's this man, like the mortgage of the family. He may not be the oldest, but he's the most influential. Whatever he says is the final. And you have seen and you have discovered that he does not want reconciliation of the couple. He will order the wife out of the marriage. He's been threatening. Okay. So he's a spoiler. But to know that he's a member of a religious organization, let's say he's a member of a church, maybe he's even a pastor there. You can go to a senior pastor and report. Maybe every powerful person has somebody more powerful. They have people that they respect. You can go and report him to such individual. If not, if is the case whereby you can bring in illegal stuff, you can report such people to police as disturbing the peace, depending on the kind of case. If it's a case that has to do with child and this, you can take the case to child protection and say this man wants to do this, and if he does this, it's going to disrupt the education of these children. Or maybe you can bring in a gender dimension and go and look for NGOs on gender or Ministry of Women Affairs. And then they will come in and go and warn him. You don't have rights on this woman, or this. Or if you do this, we're going to do this for you. Blessed are the peacemakers, conflict managers, peacemakers. We are not always like doves, docile doves. Somebody will come and say, sue, and then we will fly away. Sometimes, because we are committed to bringing about peace, we look out for people who want to spoil our works, and we take care of them. It is done everywhere, at any level of conflict. Sometimes governments, they negotiate behind closed doors. They negotiate with spoilers. They know that this man in this community is a troublemaker. He will do this. Whatever we are doing, he can upturn it. He can call the international road or tell the youth to go to the street. We just call that guy to the side and say to him, bribe him to keep quiet. If they don't bribe him with cash, many times it's with cash, many times they give him projects. And the man will keep calm. But sometimes they kill them. Sometimes the only solution government or international government, government, global governments have is to neutralize or kill those people. But we cannot kill anybody, but you can contain some people through your spiritual activity as well. If you are the kind of person that prays and you know that prayer works, you can pray such people out of the system. God will just get them busy somewhere until you finish what you are doing. But what we are saying is that you should be conscious that there are some actors that will work at cross purposes to your conflict management, and you cannot afford to be docile about such actors. You can't. You have to be conscious of them and find a way of containing them. Sometimes meeting with these people one-on-one and reasoning with them is all. Maybe they didn't have full understanding of the conflict situation or of what you are trying to do. But whatever you do in conflict management, do not be indifferent to spoilers. Find out what they want. Some of them, all they want is recognition. Some of them, what they want is money. Some of them, they are totally unreasonable. Some of them, they did not understand the situation. Once you go to them and you recognize them, we know you are the main man here. And we are just coming here. Once we know, you give us go ahead, we do it. We need your support. And that settles some. But some will just be scattering ground every time. We find a way to take care of them. Report them to appropriate authority, report them to authority figures over them, this and that, but don't be indifferent about potential spoilers. Yes, we go to another element of conflict, which is dynamics. And dynamics has to do with the current trends. Is the conflict escalating or de-escalating? Is hostility increasing? And so on and so forth. Do we have windows of opportunity in the conflict? Oh, two Muslims are fighting over something, and then suddenly Ramadan starts. You can say, because of this Ramadan, this holy month, we cannot afford to be doing this, and we are taking advantage of the opportunity of the Ramadan season. Okay, so let's look at some specific conflict tools that we have. Specific conflict tools that we have. We have the onion or donut model. Dr. Kade George mentioned, referred briefly to this in his presentation. We have conflict tree, ABC triangle, conflict map. You see, conflict map here is not the same thing as conflict mapping. Conflict mapping is a narrative of, is a narrative tool. We ask certain questions and supply answers. Whereas conflict map is a pictorial tool, is a pictorial representation, of conflict, of parties in the conflict and the relationship between them. We have the 3 P's, we have the 5 W's, 1 H, and so what. I'm trying to check the timetable to be sure that we are still on course. Oh, okay. So we have conflict perspective analysis, that is CPA, conflict wheel, Gnosis escalation model, needs fear model, pillars, and timeline. Okay. So I want to start with let me start with the onion model, I guess. Okay, I will be starting with conflict tree. Conflict tree. Okay. You see, we use conflict tree to analyze issues. You know, supposing you have used conflict wheel, the meta-analysis tool, and you have used the PCAD to get more detailed information categorized under different themes. Now, you have identified the issues. Now, you want to understand which issue is a structural issue or root causes. What are the core problems and what are the effects? Because you can identify the issues between them, but the issue needs to be further broken down, and that is where tools like conflict tree come in. Conflict tree represents issues in conflict using the metaphor of a tree, using the symbol of a tree. A tree has 3 major parts: the roots of the tree, the stem of the tree, and then we have the leaves and the fruits and the flowers of the tree. Now, when we see a tree, often the first thing we see there are the leaves. It is when we move closer, we begin to see the stem, and it is until when we dig under the soil that we begin to see the roots. But you and I know that without the roots, the tree is dead. So let's say this tree is an undesirable tree. What do we need to do? Cut the leaves, cut the stem, uproot it. Now, given the time we have at hand, can we uproot? These are the things we take into consideration. But the first thing is that, what are the root causes of this issue? In the case that in the tree I'm presenting to you in the slide, we see that the roots are land problem, colonial period, language polarization, ethno-supremacist state, and then victimization. People are feeling victimized. So what is the core problem? What do all these root causes lead to? They led to absence of identity cohesion. In other words, the people living in this geographical area, they don't see themselves as one. There is disunity. Everybody is still bearing his mother's name or his father's name here. Now, what are the effects of these things? We have population trauma, violence and assassinations of civilians, separatist movements. Somebody says, I'm Yoruba Nation. Oh, I'm Biafra. I'm this, I'm that. And we also have refugee camps, exodus of people, and so on and so forth. So that is what the conflict tree does. It deals with the difference between structural and dynamic factors. It helps us to visualize how conflict issues link these two aspects. How conflict issues link the structural and dynamic factors. Dynamic factors are those things that change every now and then. They are the leaves and the fruit and the flowers. All these are not as stable as the trunk of the tree. Most trees, they change their leaves and their flowers and their fruits seasonally, but the trunk remains the same. So also the root. So the conflict trees analysis, issue analysis model is okay, say that. Okay. Sometimes, if the issues are important or difficult issues, we may need to go beyond cutting the leaves. We may need to dig deep and uproot. However, we may first of all start with cutting the leaves and the branches and the tree, and the fruit in the short term. That may be within the period of negative peace. When we say stop killing, yes, killing is part of what they are doing. Stop that. Stop burning out houses, part of the effect. But we know that if you don't go deeper, people, next season, there will be another wave of hostility, another wave of violence. So the space, the period we have for peace, we decide, let's quickly cut the stem and then let's uproot the root. Let's pull out the root. So in the case of conflict, we are considering what are the leaves and fruits of, okay, let me say, what are the issues? What are the issues in the APC, PDP, Labour Party conflict? What are the issues? I need responses. Let me take us back to the picture of the tree. You can use it as a comparison, as an inspiration. What are the issues? Some of us have mentioned some of the issues. I think some of us have made, oh, okay, we did, but we did when we are doing the PCAD. What are the causes? Who are the actors? What is the profile? Causes, actors, and dynamics. Okay. So, some issues, one of the things that conflict tree helps us to do is to let us know that some effects, that is issues or effect issues, or should I call it issues effect? The kind of issues that are like the leaves and the fruit, those effects, sometimes the fruits, once they fall, to the ground, they germinate, and then another tree grows. Meaning that sometimes an effect can be the cause, can be a core problem, or be a cause of another conflict. And this thing can keep going on, that the original causes or the original cause has now produced many different causes from its fruit. Now we have a forest of conflict, a conflict in which there are many issues. Okay, we'll go to the onion model. Don't forget, conflict tree helps us to identify the issues, to help us break it down to the root causes, the core problem, and the effects. The onion model, on the other hand, helps us to identify the position, interests, and needs of the actors. They have issues, but what is their position? What are their interests? What are their needs? We do recall that we say that we can only resolve conflict if we are able to identify the needs and interests of the parties. So, onion model is one of the PIN tool of conflict analysis. P for position, I for interest, N for needs. And it's one of the most popular, maybe because it relates to food. Some people call it donut model. I mean, they have similar things, just like Dr. K was saying in the morning that donut has the brown cover, then white inside, then at the center it has this jelly. What do we call this thing? This sweet gel, and that is the sweetest part of it. Donut model is also a PIN model. So why is it important that we are able to break conflicts? I mean, actors stuff into position, interest, and needs. I've said that because that is when we're able to really solve the conflict. The position is what the actors say they want. You see, the interest is why they want that thing, and the needs are below the interest. Why the interest? So the model is saying, like onion, conflict has many layers. The outermost layer is the dry part. Many times we cannot do much or do anything without dry part of onion. For many years, I've always thought it's useless. It's only in recent time I learned that one can use it for, mosquito repellent. But you can't cook it. No matter how expensive onion is, people don't use the bark of the onion to cook. I've never seen anybody in any tribe maybe make it as a powder. No. That is why position, what parties say they want, might not be good enough when we are trying to manage conflict. We need to move beyond what they say they want. The husband is saying, leave my house. I don't want you in the house again. The wife is also saying, I'm leaving this stupid man's house. That is what they are saying. When they call you in as a conflict manager, you say, okay, I don't see any conflict here. Sir, you said she should leave. Ma, you said you are leaving. So the two of you, case closed. The two of them are going to look at you and say, yeah, but you call yourself a conflict manager. Because they expect you to go deeper. Why are they saying, I want to leave? You must leave. I don't want to see you again. Why? That is the interest. Wow. It may be that the woman says, the man is abusive. or the man says the woman is disrespectful, oh, the man cannot provide for me. So you say, oh, meaning that if there is a way that provision is made, you may change that position. Meaning that if there is a way you feel respected, you may change that position of she must leave, or I must leave him. So you must learn to go beyond what they say they want to the level of their interest and their needs. The interest must be satisfied, the needs must be met. And this is where you want to know, is it basic human needs? Need for recognition, need for security, need for this. You know that unless those needs are met, this conflict will not be settled. Honor model gives us the tool to be able to get to the level of interest and to the level of needs. You see, and like we were saying in communication yesterday, when parties are in conflict, many times it's only the position we are hearing. They are only talking, communicating their positions. However, we cannot do much or do anything with positions. The only thing we can do with position is to ask, why are you saying that? So, Dr. Ajaka said yesterday that parties, they don't communicate or even articulate their interests and their needs. Part of our job in using our communication skill is to help parties articulate their interests, articulate their needs, and later they'll be able to communicate this interest, they'll be able to communicate these needs. Many times it takes your skills as conflict manager to help parties unravel or dig out this interest, this need. Sometimes they don't even know why they are saying what they are saying. But when you sit with them and you listen empathically, you listen with empathy, you listen actively, we see them emptying their souls. Many times before parties be able to let you know their interests, their fears, their anxiety, you will have established a kind of trust with them based on the level or the way you are listening to them. Like Dr. Adekwa said yesterday, in counseling, some people, all they need is a listening ear. There's the story about one of the most prominent American presidents, Abraham Lincoln, the guy that's tried to become president for more than, I don't know, maybe 50 or 60 or 30 times. I mean, one outrageous number of times. He failed. Failed at the local government, failed as a councillor, failed as a deputy governor, but this guy just kept doing. Once he misses or fails to become, to win at a small level, the next time he's coming out at a higher level. Until he came out as the president and he won. He now became the president of America during one of the worst times for America because he was the president during the American Civil War. And he did wonderfully well. Wonderfully well. So the story has it that during this period, one of the darkest, dark period of America, no, the whole weight of the nation was upon him. Some people were criticizing him, even among his own men in the north. He said one night he entered the presidential wagon, horse-drawn cart, and traveled, I've forgotten the number of miles now, but one ridiculously high miles. Maybe, I know it's over 100 miles, something like that. Where did he, excuse me, where did he go to? He went back to his former house, where he was living before he became the president. For what reason? He went to meet his former neighbor. Why? The neighbor was one of the best listeners. Abraham Lincoln needed somebody to listen to him. The story says that they spoke throughout the night, and as the dawn was breaking, without waiting to hear anything from the neighbor, the president entered the cart, the presidential wagon, and went back to Washington. He didn't come for advice. He just came to be listened to. And that was therapeutic for him. Some of the actors we will come in contact with, all they are looking for is somebody to listen to them. But if that is not the case, as a conflict manager, in listening, people reveal their interest. In listening, people reveal their needs. And like I said, some of them don't even know that that was their need, that was their interest. So this is an illustration of the onion model. You see, position, this is used for a conflict case. This is what people say they want. Interest, what they really want or why they want what they say they want. And then need, what they must have. The conflict map, somebody is annotating our slide, so I have to be cleaning it. Okay, conflict map is another tool. It's different from conflict mapping, although some people use them interchangeably. But technically, and in some books, you find them using them interchangeably. But technically, the map, just like any map refers to a pictorial representation of somewhere or something. Whereas mapping is mapping information or gathering information to help us make sense of something. So conflict map here, you see, is a pictorial or graphical representation of actors in conflict, their relative power, the relationships between them, and their issues. Conflict map shows the actors, their relative size, their relative power. The sizes of the circle you are seeing shows the relative power or influence those actors are. Like the local school and local authority, local youth club, traveler project, and local ETB. All of them have relatively the same level of influence in this conflict situation. Other actors like G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, they have smaller power. The issues between these are represented in the rectangular boxes. The lines. Unbroken lines shows alliance. Broken lines shows discord. This one is a conflict map drawn by a group of people in a workshop about the conflict in the Democratic Republic of Congo. This document is a living document. I mean, let me say, it's an interactive document. I only screenshot or took a picture of it. Maybe I'm going to provide the link to us, where from the link, once you put your cursor, your pointer on the circle, for instance, you put your cursor on Côte d'Ivoire as I'm doing, it will show you the map of Côte d'Ivoire, give you a link, and then tell you the history and so on and so forth. But I just brought it there to let us see that how we use conflict map in conflict analysis. So you can see it's a visual technique for showing relationships between parties in conflict. I want to show the meaning of the lines, what we use to represent the relationships. You see, these are the symbols we use in conflict map. You see here, they even call it conflict mapping. The mapping here is not referring to. Okay, you see, double line shows very good relationship. Straight line, close relationship. Dotted line shows weak, informal, or intermittent links. Arrow, the direction of arrow shows the predominant direction of influence. So the bigger circle has more influence over the smaller circle. Zigzag line shows discord. Crossed out line shows broken connection. Half circle or quarter circle, these are used to represent external parties or third parties or shadow parties. And rectangular boxes are for the issues. So the importance of conflict map is that it presents to us a picture, a visual of the ongoing conflict, a visual of the ongoing conflict. So it helps us to understand the situation better. Like you see the Chinese proverb that says a picture is better than 1,000 or 10,000 words. So from the conflict map, immediately you can see what is going on, who the actors, and so on and so forth about the conflict. And also, you can identify windows of opportunities for intervention. For instance, sometimes you're able to see that there is a strong relationship between the wife, between a father, for instance, and a daughter. There is a strong relationship also between the daughter and the mother. But the relationship between the mother and the father is broken down. So from the map, we are able to see that we can go through the daughter to reconcile the father and the mother. You see, that is what conflict map are one of the advantages of conflict map. Okay. The time is 4:10 now. I want to give us like 5 to 7 minutes break so that we can stretch our legs before we continue. Is that okay by us, or we just continue? Hello?
That's okay, Prof.
Okay, so let's take 7 minutes break and then we reconvene to continue. Hope we have stretched our legs and our backs. So let's continue. Hello, can we hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you, Prof.
Oh, great. So another tool is the ABC triangle. It was introduced in the 1960s by John Dalton. And the A signifies the attitude, B, behavior, and C, context. Like we explained yesterday in understanding conflict, people's attitude influences their behavior. And then the behavior will change the context. I'll give you a quick illustration. If somebody feels that another person, let me use ladies here, is beefing her, maybe she has heard that she said something about her, then the beef starts. Maybe they hug on the corridor before, maybe they greet on the corridor before this thing happens. But this new attitude, the next time they see themselves, they may not greet, meaning that their attitude has changed their behavior, the way they behave to one another. And now, when they now beef themselves among friends, it will change the vibe that's maybe the normal vibe among friends. So the context is changing. In other words, ABC triangle is saying that the attitude, behavior, and context, they influence one another. They influence one another in conflict. Ordinarily, there will be arrow from A to B, and then another arrow going from B to A, showing that attitude influences behavior, and behavior also will reinforce the attitude. And also, behavior will change the context, and context will also influence behavior. And also, context influences attitude, and attitude also influences the context. So that is the essence of the ABC triangle. It's based on the premise that those three major components, the context or the situation, the behavior of those involved, and their attitude, they interact. And then they become mutually reinforcing. And for us to break the cycle of violence, we need to change. We need to work on these three components, these three vertices simultaneously. As we are working to change the attitude, we are working on the behavior, and we are working on changing the context. That is, according to Galton, that is the best way to break the vicious cycle of pain. The vicious cycle of pain. Okay, we also have the timeline tool, which shows it illustrates events as they happen over time. It chronicles events as they evolve. And then we want to gather information from both sides of the divide, from both sides of the conflict. So it facilitates understanding of the real issues at stake and the history of the case with dates, and it helps us to unearth remote causes. The purpose is for us to get information about the history of the conflict and show different views of a particular conflict. The point here is that when we hear from all the sides in a conflict, how the event evolved with time, over time, with dates and time, we're able to know, we're able to chronicle this thing very well and see when things went out of proportion, or when things went south, when things happened. It helps us to clarify how each party was interpreting a particular event happening at a particular time. And this will help in the resolution of the conflict. Now, the pillars of conflict, the pillar 2, it pitches its argument on the fact that every conflict is built on some structure of intolerance, fanaticism, poverty, bigotry, and so on and so forth. So, for us to properly understand or manage a conflict, we need to either weaken or remove its supporting pillars, its structures. I'm going to ask us now, this one, there are other ones that we just have to read, to just glance through. These ones are not graphical ones, the who, what, and how. They ask questions similar to the questions asked under PCAD or mapping. Who, talking about the actors, you see there are a series of questions to ask from about the actors, and there we can use the actor map, conflict map, to map the actors and their relationships. We can use the conflict tree to look at the issues and so on and so forth. So those ones are similar to the ones we have discussed. Now, we will do this activity now. It take about 10 minutes. You will take any conflict tool we have discussed, and then on your own. It could even be a conflict you are working on. That would be the most appropriate thing to do. The conflict you have been working on in the course activity that you want to submit, and then you will use any of the tools you have discussed today. Don't pick anything complex, and just say, oh, you can focus on issue or actors, and then analyze that conflict or analyze an aspect of that conflict. The time is 4:27. Let's say we will come back and listen to our whatever we have done in the next 10 minutes. That will be by 4. Let's even say 12 minutes. 4:40. So let's take this and let's do this activity. We can't do it on group basis now, but we can do it at individual level. Is that clear to all of us? Hello, is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in 12 minutes, let's analyze a conflict, an aspect of a conflict of our choice, either actors, any of those elements. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hello, Prof.
Oh, thank you very much, ma'am. So, have you been able to use any of the tools to analyze an aspect of a conflict, Madam Nora?
Yeah.
Okay, can you tell us which tool you use and then how you used it? Thank you. Madam Nora, you have the floor.
Yes, I'm coming. Just a few minutes.
Okay.
Maybe another person. If another person is ready, let them.
Okay. Is anybody done? Anita? Omini. Okay. Omini. Omini. Please, you have the floor.
Yes. Ominini.
Omini.
Okay, so I use the conflict tree to analyze the Boko Haram conflict.
Wonderful.
So in 2021, the Boko Haram leader, what's his name, Abubakar Shekau, also he died, and like it was caused by his death was caused by some members of the ISWAP, that is the Islamic State West Africa province. So this death of the Boko Haram leader now caused the ISWAP members to fight with some of the Boko Haram members. So that is like seen as the root cause. And like the consequences of this, his death caused by the ISWAP led the members of that faction to attack a prison. I don't know if you remember the attack of the prison in Abuja that led to some inmates being freed. So yes, that's like the consequence of his death caused by the. So I use the conflict tree to analyze that.
Thank you very much. So in the Boko Haram conflict, you pick an episode, and then you pick one of the elements of the conflict, which is issue, isn't it? That is very brilliant. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, who else?
You're welcome.
You said? Okay. Okay, let's continue our conversation with meaning. If you want to identify the actors in that episode of conflict, who are they?
The actors would be the members of Boko Haram and members of the other faction, the Islamic State West Africa province.
Thank you very much. Those are the main actors, but we have other actors as well. The Nigerian army will also be, stakeholders, Nigerian government. I really appreciate you for that. Okay, Anita, Mr. Anjuka. Miss Joy Oko. Who else is ready to tell us? Vaku, are you there? Vaku. Madam Jeje Toyin. Okay. It's like other people are not yet ready. So let's continue our conversation with meaning. So, which conflict tool are you likely to use to analyze actors?
Sir? I don't understand the question.
To analyze the actors in that conflict you selected, what conflict tool are you likely to use? Yes.
No, I use the conflict tree. Is that not like a conflict tool
Yes, I
to
mean,
analyze it?
yeah, you use that one to analyze issues in the conflict.
Yes.
But supposing you want to analyze actors in the conflict, which tool are you likely to use?
I don't know. I don't know what tool I would consider. I don't know.
Okay. Do you know any conflict tools that we can use to analyze actors?
Yes, that's the problem. I don't know the conflict tools you're referring to. Maybe if you can find me of one, I'll
Okay.
be able to
For
answer.
instance, we use conflict tree to analyze issues, and we can use
Yes.
conflict map. Conflict map. You know, I said that conflict map is used to analyze actors, their relative power, the relationships between them, and the issues.
Okay.
And it's a pictorial. Were you there when I was saying that?
Yes, that it's a visual technique that helps us to understand the situation better.
Yes.
Yes.
You got it. So you see, in conflict analysis, we analyze the issues, like we have done, and then we want to analyze the actors. Then we want to analyze the profile of the conflict, and the dynamics of the conflict, and so on. In any conflict analysis, at least those 4 elements must be present. In any conflict analysis, we must analyze at least those 4 elements.
Sorry, is that using the PCAD sphere? Because you said that one is for like the main issues, or the main thing in the conflict.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes. You know, the PCAD, the conflict wheel, they will help us to identify the main themes, the main elements, actors, this and that and that. Now, within these elements, we now use the smaller tools to analyze the specifics of each element. So whatever analysis we are doing, whether we are using the PCAD or whatever method tool or tool we are using, we must identify at least those 4 elements for us to make sense of the conflict. Actors, causes, dynamics, and profile. So you have picked a conflict case, you have identified issues, and you have used conflict tree to do it. To complete the whole conflict analysis, you now pick another tool to look at actors, another tool or multiple tools to look at the other 2 elements or the 4 elements, as the case may be. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So if that conflict that you just talked about now is the one you chose for your course activity, then you need to look out for those other elements there.
Okay.
Before you submit. Okay, Madam Nora, are you ready for us? Are you ready for us, Madam Nora? Anyone ready for us? Okay, Madam Nora, once you are ready, just raise up your hand. We are about to wrap up now. It's been a very long day for many of us, excuse me. Okay, sometimes people have constraints to conflict analysis. One of the major constraints we have is time. People think doing conflict analysis is a waste of time. You don't want to subscribe to that kind of mindset. Just think of anytime you are tempted to say, oh, I don't need to analyze it. Time is going. People are dying. This situation is whatever. Always think of the possibility of worsening the situation without appropriate information. Always see yourself as a medical doctor who wants to rush into treating a patient without proper knowledge-based diagnosis, knowledge-informed prognosis, and want to go to therapy. They will seize his license soon because he killed somebody's child. The procedure is before you administer your conflict management skills, you want to know what you are getting into through conflict analysis. Sometimes people also feel that things are changing. I don't know the stage I am, or the conflict is moving from latent to emergence to escalation. So things are just changing. So I don't want it to get to stalemate. Let me go into the conflict. When do I get into the conflict? Is also one of the things people find as constraint in conflict analysis. Okay, Madam Nora, I can see your hand. So you have the floor. Let's hear you out. Madam Nora, you have the floor. Can you hear us now, Madam Nora? Please check your audio. Ominini, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so Madam Nora, please check your audio. She says she can't hear. Okay, while we are waiting for her to connect, please let me send her a message. Okay, so other challenges to conflict analysis, we look at the behaviors of stakeholders, triggers of conflict, and so on and so forth. Behaviors of people are difficult to analyze. You don't know their interests, so we just dabble into it. No, we should still painstakingly analyze all these things. Now, finally, the standard procedure in conflict analysis is that we need to mainstream gender. By mainstreaming gender, it means that we want to take into consideration the concept of men and women. We want to ensure that we are not only hearing or looking for information from a gender. We want to listen to both male and female. Many times in conflict situations, the male gender are more prominent. So one is tempted to only want to listen to them as a conflict manager. If you do that, your conflict analysis might be lopsided. It may be just male-centric information that you get. You know, we are in Africa, males are the head of the family, male are usually the traditional ruler, male are the head of this parastatal or the other parastatal. So we are not conscious or we are not careful, we may end up just gathering information from male. So we want to ensure that as much as possible, both male and female are represented when you are collecting your information. That is the idea of gender mainstreaming in conflict analysis. If you don't do this, you will be depriving your analysis of information from at least half of the population. You won't get females' perspective. But to have a rich analysis, male and female perspective must be reflected in our analysis. Okay. So this brings us to the end. Wow. This is 4 minutes to 5. It brings us to the end of today's class. I don't know whether those of us that are still present, if anybody has any comments or question. Is vacuum?
Yes.
Okay, Ominini, do
Yes,
you have
sir.
questions as we close the class? Or any question? So, Ominini, I'm listening. Oh, you may want to show your video.
Sorry, I didn't get what you said.
I said we want to wrap up the class now. I don't know whether you have any question or clarifications or any comments. Madam Nora.
Okay. Yes, I do.
Ominini, can you turn on your video, please? And then go ahead and ask your question.
The camera that I'm using here, it's not exactly working.
Oh,
So it won't show yet.
okay.
Okay, but the question is concerning the conflict situation that I presented. You said if I want to analyze the conflict actors, I would have to use one of the. So can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, I would have to use one of the other conflict tools in analyzing the actors. So does this mean I can use like under the PCAD? Under the PCAD sphere, there's the profile and the other one. So is it from there I'm going to pick a tool to analyze the actors, or is it from the onion model or any other one?
You can usually you use multiple tools to analyze the actors. Let me quickly show you something in the conflict wheel. In the conflict wheel, we identified a set of tools to use to analyze actors. For instance, onion model can be used to determine the interest and the needs of the actors. Conflict map will be used to analyze the power of the actors, their relationships, their relative influence, and so on. Look, can you see my screen now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, this is a conflict wheel. Actors/stroke relations is the first sector. That is number 1. Now, we identified 3 tools to be used here. One tool is conflict map. The another tool is CPA, conflict perspective analysis. That's CPA. Another tool is needs fears mapping. You see, each of these tools, they will cater to different things, different variables of the actor, different dimensions of the actor. For instance, if during our mapping, we found out that interest and needs are important here, we may include onion model. All these 4 models, all these 4 tools, they are for actors to map different things or to analyze different aspects of the actors. Now, you agree with me that someone that uses one tool to analyze actor and someone that uses 4 tools to analyze actor, one of them will have deeper understanding of what is going on with the actors than the other. Is that true, Ominini?
Yes, it is.
You understand? So many times we use multiple tools for a particular element. The PCAD goes with 4 core elements. In any conflict, those 4 core elements are there. But in the wheel, conflict wheel, it broke the 4 elements into 6. Some tools, like the 3 P's: people, place, and what's the 3rd P? 3 P's. The point there is that one focuses on 3. And the who, the what, and the why also focuses on 3. But in providing information to them, we find out that they also touch on all those 4 things in the PCAD. Do you understand?
Okay. Yes, I do. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. So I think our time is up now. If there's any other comments from our other participants, we will address them tomorrow. So I want to really thank you, Ominini and others, for being patient till this time and your efforts in learning with us. Ominini, are you a student?
Yes, sir. I'm
Okay.
for Babalola University.
Oh, wonderful. It's great to know that. Okay, we see you tomorrow as we continue our training. God bless you all. Thank you very much for your attention. Have a lovely evening. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you to Vaku. I saw you come up now. Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, Madam Jeje Toyin.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening.
Prof.
Yes, ma'am.
Well done.
Yes, ma'am.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you. Same here.
Bye.
Bye.